Do you remember when you got your first iPhone or your first Android? And can you still remember how you lived before you got it? Life was so much different then, right? When I visited the city of Moscow, the capital of Russia, for the first time in 1992, I noticed that so many people were sitting on the subway trains, on the metro, as it is called in Moscow, reading books by Tolstoy, Dostoevsky, Turgenev, and many other authors. Mobile phones were not yet spread all around the globe, and people spend their time reading, or can you imagine talking to other people? Before we come to the book, please click subscribe if you want to see the engaging and wonderful content that this channel delivers to you for free twice a week. Jonathan Haidt is an American social psychologist. He's a professor and he is an author known for his research on morality, politics, and cultural psychology. His work focuses on the psychological basis of human morality. He is currently a professor at New York University's Stern School of Business, where he holds a position in the Business and Society program. At NYU Stern, he focuses on ethics, leadership, and the role of business in society. His work there also involves studying how moral psychology affects organizational behavior and decision-making. His newest book is The Anxious Generation: How the Great Rewiring of Childhood is Causing an Epidemic of Mental Illness. It was published in March 2024, and I finished it a few days ago as the second read of the year, having started it in December. Well, whereas my generation has often been criticized for being helicopter parents who try to protect their children from pretty much everything, Haidt says that we gave them smartphones without knowing anything about the impact that they and all the million apps that would come with them had on the lives and the psyche of our children. Haidt uses a very strong metaphor. He asks if you would send your children to Mars without knowing what lie ahead of them. No, you would not, of course not, but you gave your son or your daughter, probably, we gave our sons and our daughters millions of iPhones and later Android by, let's say, Samsung and Xiaomi or whatever, Huawei, without knowing how kids would cope with that. Jonathan Haidt quotes a lot of studies in the United States in his book, but also abroad that show that mental illness for the generation born after 1995 has risen enormously, especially for young girls. Anxiety, autism, and depression have more or less exploded. Not because what the incoming American Secretary of Health, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. believes. He thinks that vaccinations lie behind autism. The birth and the rise of the smartphone and the rising numbers of mental illness go together hand in hand and year by year. The book focuses primarily on children and adolescents. When social media or Web 2.0 conquered the internet and replaced the, in the beginning, static structure of websites, when suddenly everyone could produce content and the like buttons quickly became a means of communication and a sign of acceptance and success, everything got worse at fast speed. Particularly girls suffered the most for several reasons. For example, that girls and women in centuries had to look beautiful and flawless, and with social media, millions of judges started giving grades to the looks of young women and adolescents in the most vulnerable period of their lives. Secondly, girls and women were groomed and hunted by predators, and even if parents helicopter protected their children on their way to school or afternoon and evening activities, they did not know much about what happened in the children's bedrooms when they watched TV or themselves hung out on the internet. Their kids could be sexually harassed in the house and assaulted while they were safely at home. Girls and women compare themselves to others to a much larger extent, while boys focused more on gaming. The latter led to addiction and also depression, but not in the same number as that happened to girls and young women. Playtime. Remember the days on the old schoolyard, we used to laugh a lot, as Cat Stevens sung on his album Izitzo in 1977. Playing time and the play-based childhood, as Jonathan Haidt calls it, was replaced by the phone-based childhood for the people born after 1995. A German study recently found out that average kids in the country spend 7 hours online each day without counting school. Attention span has been reduced drastically over the years. TikTok lives from short attraction span videos that in the beginning were max 60 seconds long. A small minority is able to watch YouTube videos longer than 5 minutes today. Also here in this video, I guess many people have already clicked on the next more promising, more exciting thumbnail. Congrats! And thank you if you are still there listening and watching to this. In addition to anxiety and depression, sleep deprivation is an issue that has become epidemic in the phone-based childhood, says Haidt. Too little sleep is critical for mental health and study results and academic performance. Adolescents have no longer many friends in the neighborhood, but at best, friends in the same age all over the world. If you have a good online friend in California and you live in Sweden, you will face a 9-hour time difference when you communicate. When your Californian friend has eaten dinner and it's 7 in LA, it is 4 a.m. in Stockholm, Sweden. To talk to her or him, you might play games, you're waiting, you're playing games, you're watching videos during the early night until he or she is going to log in. Not good for your health. Jonathan Haidt says that maturity is delayed by some years for the phone-based generation. Childhood gets extended in a way, and to handle real-life challenges and real-life problems is more and more difficult for the phone-based childhood generation. Sometimes colleagues I work with are complaining about that the younger generation, Generation Z, is not as self-going at 25 as they were earlier. And often I guess that might be true, but Jonathan Haidt's conclusions and connections between mental illness, underdeveloped maturity, and the phone-based generation are true. He says that the world has gone into one of the most consequential experiments totally uncontrolled. Many people say it is too late to alter the course, to change it, to stop the development. And when I see the incoming presidency in the United States of America, where tech giants and billionaires like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg have all kissed the ring to incoming President Donald J. Trump to get maximum benefits for their corporations and for their own well-being, I have a fear that not much will be done to help our kids and adolescents in the next coming 4 years. The 3 richest men in America, that's what Zuckerberg, Bezos, and Musk are, have no interest in fighting mental illness of girls in Arkansas or Oklahoma, believe me. Haidt is more optimist than I am. He advocates for a bunch of measures that he also outlines in the book. The most important would be a strict introduction of no social media for adolescents under 16 years. Today, the age of consent for social media is 13, but every 9-year-old can check the box that he or she is 13 and dive into the beautiful world of Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, and other apps. Many 12-year-olds get their knowledge about sexuality from hardcore porn sites that ask them if they are 18. And once they say, yes, I am 18, they are free to watch how anal sex works before they get their first kiss on the cheek from a love interest that they might have. This should be outrageous, and we should protect our children and kids much, much better. The tech industry would need to be controlled. The most powerful companies are in the United States, where a majority of voters have decided against that on November 5 last year. Jonathan Haidt's book is of great importance. All of his claims are supported by different studies that he is quoting. Candice Odgers, a professor at the University of California in Irvine, she contends that most empirical evidence does not find a large or consistently negative effect of social media on mental health. So there's criticism against Jonathan Haidt. David Wallace Wells, writing for the New York Times, a very corporate newspaper, emphasizes that while smartphones may contribute to emotional distress for some teenagers, attributing the rise in depression and anxiety solely to technology oversimplifies a more nuanced issue. He points out that teenage mental health trends vary between countries and should be interpreted cautiously. However, here in Sweden, where I have lived for almost 30 years now, I can confirm that Jonathan Haidt's points work. Mental illness in Sweden is getting more and more prevalent. Diagnoses are here and there, and screen time of adolescents is scary. Honestly, my own screen time is scary, and I would love to see another study that takes all of our lives into focus and wakes us up how much our lives have changed within the last 18 years since the introduction of the smartphone and social media. I would also claim that the great divide in our societies in the US and in Europe owe a lot to social media and people and interests who spread misinformation in order to raise the political climate and to question basic democratic values. Sophie McBain in The Guardian acknowledges Haidt's concerns, but questions his downplaying of global issues like climate change and also political instability as contributing factors to youth anxiety. I would not say that Haidt downplays climate change. It is simply not the focus in the book. And as I said right before, political instability has not only roots in social media and smartphones, but it spreads like a flood through it. I would not say that the anxious generation can only be portrayed or identified within the phone-based childhood as root cause, but the book delivers a very important discussion point. Of course, there are more reasons for why we are where we are today. Pupils and students are under great pressure to excel academically in a world that is changing from the industrial and the post-industrial age to the age of artificial intelligence. For the first time, parents can no longer be sure that their children will have it better than they did. This promise that was true for more than a century in countries like the United States, like UK, like Germany, like Sweden is broken. Our children will inherit from us an unstable economy where the seemingly endless economic growth seems to stall and where every year will be warmer than the year before, breaking records, poles melting, wildfires here and there, and storms punishing humankind for what it has done to the planet. Face-to-face interaction has been reduced, even the time that people spend outdoors, but that, my dear friend, takes us back to the internet, to social media and our phones, those tiny little devices that we so voluntarily have succumbed to. You see, there are many, many thoughts around this book, lots of discussions to make. Read it, it is worthwhile, and let me know what you think. See you soon, bye-bye.